when the narcissist realizes life sucks without you. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. You may have asked yourself this very question. It might be something that's occupying your mind right now. It could be something that you've asked yourself in the past. It might be something that presents itself in the future. There is no straightforward answer to this because it depends upon a number of factors. And I, as the world's best provider of information about narcissism, will take you through the various scenarios to give you a full and accurate answer. There are doubtless others that have contemplated this question and have provided an answer to you, and they'll provide you with the wrong information. Quite simply, those who don't understand narcissism will undoubtedly have told you that, oh yes, the narcissist is absolutely miserable, is completely cheesed off and thinks life sucks, and is besides themselves with woe. The reason they do that is in part, where it's a genuine victim that offers this information, is what they want the narcissist to be feeling as a consequence of the pain that they've experienced at the treatment of the narcissist. They want to have that sense of revenge, a sense of knowledge that the narcissist is suffering in some way, that the narcissist has realised that they've lost somebody really good and decent. And therefore, their lack of understanding about narcissism, combined with their own emotional thinking, causes them to immediately state, oh yes, the narcissist is beside themselves with fury and misery and woe, as they really realise that life sucks without you. Of course, there are also those unaware mid-range narcissists who frequent YouTube and other platforms that will undoubtedly tell you, oh yes, the narcissist is really suffering. Why? Because that allies with their grandiosity, although they're unaware of it, and the fact that, of course, they will invariably think that the person that they have seen in misery and woe is a narcissist, when in actual fact they're a genuine victim who is suffering at the hands of the unaware narcissist. This is why it's so important for you to ensure that the information you receive is accurate. I make it very clear what I am. I'm a narcissistic psychopath, and despite explaining this, I still see in the comments people asking, is this person a narcissist? Yes, I am. And that's why I'm able to give you the best information about the way that my kind behave, the way that we think, the way that we operate, and the dynamic between us and you. Years of observation, interaction have been distilled into the information that I provide to you. Combined with my intellect and my thirst for knowledge, I have made it my mission to not only understand myself, but to understand the others of my kind. This presents you with the best information that you can find, reliable, accurate, and most of all, of practical assistance. So in answering the question, when the narcissist realizes life sucks without you, what are the variables that are applicable? There are 3 of them. The first, it depends on your status in the fuel matrix. 2, it depends on the dynamic between you and the narcissist, in terms of where that dynamic is at. And 3, it depends on the type of narcissist that you're dealing with, namely the sub-school. Let us first of all deal with your status in the fuel matrix. If you have not done so already, you ought to read my excellent book, Fuel, because that explains to you the rankings of appliances, namely you, in the narcissist fuel matrix. I divide people, appliances, into 3 rankings: tertiary sources, secondary sources, and the primary source. When it comes to the tertiary source, we do not think that life sucks without you. The tertiary source is the lowest ranking individual within the fuel matrix, and therefore their absence doesn't perturb us in any way. When it comes to a secondary source, this could cover non-intimate secondary sources: friends, family, colleagues, neighbours. Intimate partner secondary sources of a shelf variety, somebody we're dating, a booty call, a side piece, a mistress, or a dirty little secret, also of the shelf variety. With regard to those secondary sources, will life suck without them? Possibly, but we need to apply further variables. What about the primary source? Well, the primary source can be the non-intimate partner primary source, a family member or a friend. That is relatively rare. More usually, it's the intimate partner primary source. And that covers spouse, cohab, partner. With regard to a non-intimate partner primary source or an intimate partner primary source, life could potentially suck for the narcissist without them. Therefore, the application of this first criterion means tertiary sources, no suck. But when it comes to secondary and primary, there is the potential for life to suck without those appliances in our lives. Moving on to the second criterion, we have to consider the dynamic between us and you. The phrase life without you suggests that there is some kind of cessation of the relationship between you and the narcissist. And therefore this would cover the following. The narcissist has disengaged from you, or, in old money, discard. Or the narcissist has placed you on the shelf, applicable to secondary sources, or a former intimate partner primary source. It would also cover you escaping the narcissist. And a scenario where the narcissist is looking to hoover you back into the relationship in some form, and you resist that hoover. Accordingly, what about the situation where the narcissist disengaged from you? Do we then think that life sucks without you? The short and resounding answer to that is no. We've got rid of you. You are faulty. You are unreliable, treacherous, and traitorous. We don't want you, and therefore we readily kick you to the curb. Commonly, it is the intimate partner primary source that is disengaged from. Sometimes it will be a non-intimate partner primary source, and rarely this happens to the secondary sources, non-intimate or intimate. But where we do the disengaging, we don't think life sucks without you at all. Why would we? We've just got rid of you. What about where we place you on the shelf? Well, we don't place intimate partners, primary source, on the shelf, or non-intimate partner primary sources on the shelf, so they're not included. We will place former intimate partner primary sources on the shelf, and commonly non-intimate secondary sources and intimate partner secondary sources, dirty little secrets. Where we place you on the shelf, we don't think life sucks without you, because again, it's our decision, whether conscious or unconscious, to place you on that shelf. Therefore, life does not suck without you. What about where you have escaped the narcissist? Well, if you're a primary source that has escaped us, there is a possibility that we will then consider that life sucks without you. Where you're a secondary source, there is the possibility of us believing that life will suck without you, but that depends on whether we actually notice. In some instances, you might be on the shelf when you escape, and therefore we don't actually notice that you've done it, and it isn't until later that we realise that you've escaped. So where you're a secondary source and you escape, if we don't notice, then life doesn't suck without you. If we do notice, it potentially will suck. What about where the narcissist is looking to hoover you back in and you resist? In that scenario, it's potentially the case that we will consider that life will suck without you. Therefore, if you are a secondary source and you escape, and the narcissist notices that you have escaped, it possibly sucks. If you are a primary source and you escape, it possibly sucks. And if you're a secondary or primary, and the narcissist hoovers you to get you back in and you resist, again, it possibly sucks. We now come to the third and final criterion, the subschool of narcissist. And this, if you like, caps off the outcome to enable you to understand whether the narcissist forms the view that life sucks without you. You should be aware from my work that I categorize narcissists into 4 schools: lesser, mid-range, greater, and ultra. If you want to understand more about those sub-schools, comb through my various videos and utilize the H.G. Moores series, which you'll find in the Knowledge Vault, link in the video description below. What about the lessers? Well, they won't think that life sucks without you because they will respond with heated fury, and that's especially the case with the lower lesser and the middle lesser. Rather than thinking that life sucks, they will think that you, where there is a possibility from the earlier criteria of life sucking, the lower lesser or middle lesser will erupt with ignited fury, heated fury. So, for instance, if the lower lesser or the middle lesser notices that you have escaped as a secondary source, rather than thinking that life sucks, they'll be indignant and furious. Where the lower lesser or middle lesser has you escape as a primary source, they'll ignite with heated fury. And if they attempt to hoover you back in, whether secondary or primary, and you resist it, again the response will be heated fury. They won't think life will suck, they will just think that you're a hateful, traitorous, treacherous individual, and that you deserve everything that's coming to you, as they issue threats, perhaps visit you with physical violence, and so forth. The upper lesser type A is less likely to respond with heated fury, and instead, because of their higher energy level, they won't think that life sucks, but they'll simply think, your loss, and they will move on to somebody else rather quickly. They tend to have larger fuel matrices, and being charismatic and affable, after all they are the affable arseholes, they will just basically go, hey, their loss, fuck them, and they'll move on. They won't engage in navel-gazing, thinking, what did I do wrong? Oh, life is so terrible without this individual. With the upper lesser type B, the bullying, belligerent, brash and boasting types, they will also respond with ignited fury, but then because they have larger fuel matrices, they will move on. And therefore, as a whole, when it comes to the lessers, they will not find that life sucks without you, and instead they'll respond with ignited fury, railing against you. And then, where it's upper lesser type A, they will swiftly move on, hunting down somebody else instead, utilizing an alternative plaything. And with the upper lesser type B, they'll respond with ignited, heated fury to begin with, and then will also move on. What about the graters and the ultra? Well, quite simply, they will not see that life sucks without you. Why is this? Well, it's first of all highly unusual for the victim of a greater or an ultra to escape in the first place, but it can happen. And it's also highly unusual for a victim to resist the hoovering of a greater or an ultra. But if those things do happen, the greater and the ultra doesn't think, okay, this person has escaped me, life really sucks, or sought to hoover them in, it didn't work, life really sucks without them. Instead, the graters and the ultra will simply move on to somebody else in their extensive fuel matrices, moving on to a different secondary source where you're one, perhaps moving forward an existing secondary source to replace you where you've escaped as the primary source, and will be focused on that rather than lamenting any loss of you. The greater and the ultra will not be concerned by thinking that life sucks. They have plenty of options and have the easy ability to draw those other people who exist within their fuel matrices into a position of replacing you, whether secondary or a primary source. Moreover, you should note that the graters and the ultra will make a note to self to get you at a later juncture. They don't think life sucks. We do not do so. Instead, we recognize that you're gone for the moment, but we will get you. We will make a mental note to ensure that we are in a position to come after you and exact our retribution against you. No threat will be issued. It will come out of left field, but it will happen as we assert that control over you again in the future. But we do not think that life sucks without you. What then of the Midrangers? Well, this is where life sucks. The mealy-mouthed, shriveled, walnut-balled Midrangers are the ones that believe that life sucks without you. If you are a primary source that has escaped them, life sucks. If you are a secondary source that has escaped the narcissist and they've noticed it, life sucks. If you're a primary or secondary source that the narcissist that's mid-range has sought to hoover back in and you've resisted it, life sucks. This is because the mid-rangers are passive-aggressive and self-pity and pity plays, feeling sorry for themselves, is part of their modus operandi. With the lower mid-ranger, they will feel pity for themselves. It's not fair, life sucks, this person has left me, oh woe is me. But this will shortly give way to heated fury because they're an amalgam of the lesser and mid-range narcissist. The upper mid-range narcissist is still a mid-range narcissist, and notwithstanding their drive and their forthright manner and their arrogance and polish, they will still have a degree of self-pity for that person having escaped them or resisted the hoover. It's not fair. Life sucks that I don't have this person in my life any longer. But this will shortly give way to the return of their arrogance, and having larger fuel matrices, they will turn to somebody else. And therefore, whilst they will believe that life sucks, it won't be for too long. What about middle range type A? They will be hit hard. They think that they're good people. These are where most of the false empaths stem from. And these individuals cannot believe that somebody would leave them. They cannot believe that someone would resist being drawn back into the relationship. Remember, they don't know that they're hoovering because they're unaware narcissists. But they cannot simply believe that someone would up sticks and leave them. After everything they've done for this person, how kind they've been to them, what a wonderful person they are. And therefore, they will think that life is terrible because that person has departed them or has resisted the hoover. And they will engage in extensive self-pity, which is of course being driven by their narcissism to elicit sympathy from third parties, to enable fuel to be drawn and indirect assertion of control to be achieved. But they will truly believe that life sucks without that person being in their life any longer. What about the middle range type B? Well, it is this narcissist that goes to town, gets on the train straight into Suckville. They are hit the hardest. The default position of the middle range type B, the most needy of narcissists, believes that the world is against them and the universe has cursed them. And therefore the fact that this person has left them means life truly sucks. That once again, God has dealt them a bum hand. That the stars are not aligned in their favour. That karma has got it in for them. They will moan. They will whinge. The fact that that person has departed them, whether primary or secondary if they've noticed, or they've tried to get that person back and they've resisted it, will result in this particular type of narcissist truly believing that life sucks. Everything goes wrong. Nothing works for me. All of my relations are rubbish. Expect maximum tears. Expect the wailing. Expect the self-pitying behaviours to a sickening degree. Accordingly, when the question is posed, when the narcissist realises life sucks without you, this isn't a straightforward answer. And you have to apply the different criteria. You have to establish what is the position in the fuel matrix. What's the dynamic between you and the narcissist, and where is it at? And then ultimately, which type of narcissist are you dealing with? If you don't know which type of narcissist you're dealing with or that you have dealt with, then use the narc detector. This is hugely useful for giving you that determination with detailed reasons. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.